Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the NBA slate on DraftKings for Thursday, May the 23rd. We got Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Raptors-Bucks series is tied at 2-2. Milwaukee's headed back home with the series tied. We're going to look at the Showdown slate, talk about some of my favorite plays, start off at the top of the player pool, work our way down. I'll be sure to touch on all the options that I think are player pool, all the guys that I think are going to see minutes that you should have in your player pool. I'll talk about some of my favorite plays at the top, the mid-range, and value tier. I'll be sure to hit on the guys that I feel like I'm going to be playing the most of. Just before we do get started, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button as well. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So Giannis remains our most expensive option. He's $11,600, and Kawhi Leonard $11,400, just a $200 difference between the two. Giannis is going to remain the guy that I do want to pay it for. Him and Kawhi's salaries are just so closely priced that I think Giannis is just the better play. There's not enough savings for me to want to play Kawhi over Giannis. Giannis is going to remain the top captain play as well. He's $17,400 if you want to play him in your captain, but I still think he's worth that price tag. There is some cheap plays I like on this showdown slate to where I think you can play Giannis in your captain. So Giannis is definitely going to be a core play for me on this showdown slate. In lineups where I go with the cheap captain, or maybe I find a lot of value, I'm sure I'll be playing some Giannis and Kawhi together. But if I'm making one lineup and I just have to choose one, I'm going Giannis over Kawhi. Giannis just been so consistent in this series. Even in his bad games, he's still giving you 50-plus DraftKings points. Like last game, he got you 53 DK points, 25, 10, and 5. He just contributes so much in peripherals when it comes to rebounds and assists. Even on the nights where he doesn't score much, like in Game 3 where he only had 12 points, he still managed to get 23 rebounds and 7 assists to go along with 4 blocks as well and get you 58 DraftKings points. Giannis remains the guy that I want to pay it for, so I like going to him a lot as the top play. Chris Middleton's coming off a very good Game 4 where he had 50 DraftKings points in 36 minutes, 36 and 7, was very productive, shot 73% from the field, so he was very efficient. If Chris Middleton's going to be very popular because of this game, I think he's a guy that I will definitely shy away from. DraftKings also bumped his price up to $9,400. He saw a $2,000 increase in price. So I think Chris Middleton at $9,400 is probably going to be a guy that I avoid. Same with Kyle Lowry at $8,800. My favorite play in this mid-range would probably be Pascal Siakam at $8K. Siakam had a pretty poor game in Game 4, so his price dropped a lot. He was $9,400 last slate. Now he's all the way down to $8K. Pascal's had probably three really bad games, I should say. He had one really good game in Game 3, a game that went to double overtime. He had 49 DraftKings points. Other than that, he's been pretty bad in this series, but his price is all the way down to $8K. I still think Siakam gives you a lot of upside at this price tag. So as a mid-tier play, I think he makes a lot of sense. I would probably play him over Lowry and Middleton because I do expect Lowry and Middleton are going to get plenty of ownership, especially Middleton because he's coming off such a good game. People like to look at the game logs. It does make sense in playoff slates, to look at the game logs to see how a guy's doing, but that's definitely not the end-all be-all. So if people are going to shy away from Siakam because of what his game log looks like, with his price going down, I think he is a good play at $8K. Marc Gasol, I think at $6,600 remains a really good play. He's been very productive, very good the last 2 games, 55 and 41 DraftKings points. And for some reason, his price is still just $6,600. He had a really good game in Game 4, and DraftKings actually dropped his price $400. So I really like Gasol at $6,600. I think he's going to be my second core play to go along with Giannis. He just remains underpriced in my opinion. I really like him in that mid-range. Brook Lopez at $6K, a guy you could consider in that mid-range, but he's not been that good in this series. He's had 2 pretty bad games. He had 1 decent game, and then he had that really good game in Game 1. Lopez is only $600 less than Gasol, and I don't think that's enough savings for me to want to play Lopez over Gasol. So if I have to choose one, I'm going with Gasol as my favorite mid-range play. And then talking about some of the value options, I think there's 2 really good value plays. Norman Powell at $4,400 and George Hill at $3,600. I really like Norman Powell at $4,400. He remains way underpriced in my opinion for how well he's played, especially the last 3 games. The minutes he's seen in the last 3 games, 25, 30, and 32 minutes. 22, 31, and 31 DraftKings points. Been very productive coming off the bench. I would not be surprised if we see Powell's minutes just continue to increase. He's just been very good coming off the bench. He's been scoring. He's been getting rebounds, getting assists as well, been very productive, taking a lot of shots as well. Took 18 shots last game. So as a value play, Norman Powell at 4,400, I think is the clear cheap option to go with if you're looking for like a cheap value play. And George Hill is the next guy that I want to talk about. He's only 3,600. He continues to see good run in this series, about mid-20s in minutes pretty much every game. He saw 37 minutes in that double overtime game, but in a full 48-minute game, you're probably going to get about 27, 28 minutes out of George Hill. So at 3,600, he's not the worst value play. He's still relatively cheap. He had a very good game in Game 3, and then DraftKings bumped up his price to 5,400. Then he sort of had a mediocre game in Game 4, and now he's all the way back down to 3,600. So George Hill, as a value, I do like quite a bit. I still would rather play Norman Powell over him because I think Powell just gives you more upside, and he's only a little bit more salary. But in lineups where I have like Giannis and Kawhi together, I'm sure I'm going to have Powell and Hill to go along with those two studs. So these are like my three core plays: Giannis, Gasol, Powell. These are the three guys I expect to have a ton of ownership to on this Showdown slate. But now let's look at different roster constructions, different roster build. We'll build out a couple lineups. Let's build out a lineup with Giannis as our captain at 17.4. If we plug in Marc Gasol and we plug in Norman Powell at 4,400, that's going to leave us 7,200 remaining per player. So let's see if we can get Kawhi in there. If we put Kawhi in there, that leaves us 5,100 remaining per player. If you go down to George Hill, like I said, if you want to play Kawhi and Giannis together, you're probably going to have to play Powell and Hill. So we put Hill in there. That leaves us enough to get up to Brook Lopez, who is a guy that you could use in this lineup. If you want to go to Bledsoe for 5,600, he is very cheap, but he has not been good at all in this series. Was even worse in Game 4 with just 11 DraftKings points in 20 minutes. Bledsoe's price is so cheap that I guess that makes him a little bit appealing. And if you were to build out this lineup, or if you were to play this lineup, I guess you could put Bledsoe in there, but just know he's a very risky play, even though he's cheap and he has some appeal at that price tag. Still a risky play. Brook Lopez, pretty risky as well at 6K. Serge Ibaka was very good last game, but he still didn't see a ton of minutes. 24 minutes off the bench. He was very productive, though, with 39 DraftKings points. He got a double-double in those 24 minutes. I don't expect Ibaka to be this good. I don't expect him to put up 39 DK points again. He's probably going to play about, I'd say, 18 to 20 minutes, somewhere in that range. If he goes out there and gives you 35 DraftKings points in 20 minutes, then so be it, but I just don't see that happening again. So Ibaka, especially if he's going to be popular because he had a good game last game, he would probably be someone I would avoid as well. I guess if you were to fill out this lineup, I'd probably put Brook Lopez in there. He'd probably be the guy that I would feel safest about. Or you could take somebody out. Like you could take out Marc Gasol and then maybe upgrade him to Pascal Siakam. Then you could play like Mirotic or Ibaka. Mirotic, I think, remains a pretty decent play. He's not like a high upside play, but he's continuing to start, continuing to play about mid-20s in minutes, kind of similar to George Hill. He's going to give you probably 20 to 25 DraftKings points most nights, but maybe you'll catch a night where he gets hot from three. Maybe he gets you 30, 32 DK points in his 25, 28 minutes that he's going to play. Mirotic isn't the worst value, but he would definitely be behind Norman Powell. He would be behind George Hill for me. But like I said, if you were to play out this lineup, you could put Mirotic in there. Since we took out Marc Gasol, then I guess it makes sense to put Ibaka in there. If you don't think Gasol's going to have that great of a game, then Ibaka probably makes sense to put in there. But that's a lineup that you could build out with Giannis in your captain. Now let's look at a lineup we could go to maybe with a cheap captain, a guy like Norman Powell, who I think still gives you some good upside at his price tag. If you put Powell in there, you're obviously going to be able to play Giannis and Kawhi together. You could probably fit in Middleton, maybe. Yeah, you could definitely fit in Middleton because you put Middleton in there, you're going to need a value, but George Hill gives you value at 3,600. And then he gives you enough to play Malcolm Brogdon at 7K. Brogdon's continuing to see about mid-20s in minutes coming off the bench. Most nights you're not going to get 33, 35 DraftKings points out of him like you have the last few nights. Only 14 DK points in Game 4. So I wouldn't say that he's my favorite play at 7K. Honestly, would probably play Gasol over him for 6,600. So if you were to go with a cheap captain like Norman Powell, that's a lineup build that you could build right there. Or you could take out Middleton and go to like Siakam, then you could upgrade a position, like upgrade from George Hill to Eric Bledsoe. Or you could just leave Hill in there, leave some salary on the table, have a different lineup, and maybe you get lucky. Maybe Siakam outscores Middleton and Lowry and Brogdon and all those guys, and it winds up being the better play. And maybe George Hill outscores Eric Bledsoe, which totally could happen the way Bledsoe's been playing. Like if Hill outscores Bledsoe, Ibaka, Mirotic, which could happen, if Siakam outscores Middleton, Lowry, Brogdon, which could happen, this actually could be a pretty good lineup that you could use, and I doubt not many people are going to have this lineup because you're leaving over 2K on the table, and not many people are going to be doing that. Most people who are hand-building lineups are going to try and fit in all their salary. One of the things I like to do in the Showdown slates are play like the low dollar, like 20 max contests. Use a lineup builder, build out 20 lineups. That's what I've been doing for these Showdown slates. And I've actually been able to be profitable with it. That's probably what I'm going to be doing Thursday night. Like putting 20 lineups in like the $4, whatever it's called, the point play, whatever it's called, the big 100K tournament. I usually try not to play just one lineup in the Showdown slates. I usually try and get as many lineups in as I can and just as many contests as I can. That way you just have a better chance of maybe taking down something. Even if it's like a low dollar tournament with like $100 to first, at least gives you a shot rather than trying to like play one lineup and putting all your chips on that one lineup. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for this Showdown slate. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. I do really appreciate you guys watching the videos. Seems like you have been enjoying these NBA vids, so I'm going to continue to make them till the Eastern Conference Finals is over, and then when the finals starts, I'm going to be making Showdown videos for the finals as well. So make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. But yeah, guys, good luck tonight. Really appreciate you watching the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.